log in, he starts a test session in Collaborate Ultra, you log in on your end, he can share his screen, he turns on his microphone, and you see everything that's going on in the classroom. You can hear him talk. When he shares his screen, everything that's up there on the big screen can be on your iPad or laptop.
But this is not an invitation to be a no-show.
So
this is last resort. It's very prone to crashing.
it is not.
I tried to do this on a Wednesday, as I said before, and at least I could have a recording of what went on in the room. But I couldn't do it because the damn machine had no video camera. But it's a very effective tool, properly used. And you could use it among yourselves in the interim when you're preparing. So next time is leverage buyout, but in order to do a leverage buyout, we've got to discuss value, pricing. What's the business worth? So the mainstream of this lesson for the 14th is free cash flow equity valuation. Everything's gone. Here is the assignment that was posted a long time ago. If you had spare time to watch this video. Let's see how the time goes. If there's any time left over, I'll come back to this and try to load it. The instructions for loading it are right in here. Here's the link. It's free. It may ask you to register. These are the folks who are on a panel discussion. Big U-shaped area. Warren Buffett. You've heard of Warren Buffett. Sir James Goldsmith. Anybody ever hear of him?
No.
There is this PDF. When he died, quite a long time ago, The Economist wrote this remembrance. It's just this quick read. He's a big deal. He's one of the most feared, was one of the most feared and famous corporate raiders, i.e. private equity, i.e. LBO. And he's the most entertaining guy on the tape. He's also the best to look at because of his bespoke tailoring. Jane Bryant Quinn, old woman now, but was very well known as a finance journalist and wrote for years in Newsweek magazine. Is Newsweek defunct? Maybe it still exists online somewhere. Boone Pickens, ever heard of him? Another corporate raider, an oil man, petroleum man. You've heard of Giuliani, right?
Yeah.
He was the DA in New York. He put a lot of white-collar criminals, Wall Street people in jail in his time. Here's a senator, Democrat senator, liberal senator, dean of MIT's business school. Fred Joseph, investment banker. Beret, CEO of Borg Warner. Mercer, CEO of Goodyear Tire. Goodfriend, investment banker. Flom and Lehman, two M&A attorneys. So it's Noah's Ark. You got pairs of corporate raiders, Pickens and Goldsmith. You've got pairs of corporate CEOs, both of which have been targets of LBOs. We've got a pair of investment bankers, good friend and Joseph. And they react to the story from their perch on what they do to make a living. And they're important, well-known people in there. Most of them are dead. I should admit, this was done in 1987. You'd be amazed it's still relevant today. It is still relevant today. I'm not some old professor showing you some 30-year-old videotape just because I know it. I stopped using it. Students had heard that it was used. They said, where is it? We want to see it. Absolutely relevant today. So Google some of these folks to make sure you realize who you're looking at. And then the lake. It's kind of, well, let's see here. It's been a long time since I tried this. It's called Anatomy of a Hostile Takeover, number 5. And then the lake. Oh, it's easy. So while I've got this on, let me see if I can move through this 1 hour and find a couple of things. It's a little slow in starting.
With additional support from Equicor Equitable HCA Corporation, the Good Listening Employee Benefits Company.
So I don't, oh, here it is.
Back sometime. That's simply totally misleading. You did it.
He's the head of Goodyear Tire and Rubber.
You got a
Mercer.
phone call from the doctor. You went off into a side room and took it, and the doctor said, that's the diagnosis. It was a stroke. We can't tell how serious. We'll have to wait and watch the next few days.
Well, I'm not,
After the second phone call from the doctor?
I'm not interested in telling her at this point, no.
And so then what will happen is that when it comes out, I will say, doggone, there I was, and here's the story. It's right in the, maybe in the obits. Next I know, I don't know what you're going to say, take Mr. Oldman next. And you didn't tell me, and you deliberately misled me. I have a whole different view of how I can trust what you say or your company says in the future.
Suddenly we don't get along again.
Suddenly.
so this is a CEO of a Fortune 500 company talking to a journalist.
You're a major shareholder in Peachtree. Would you want to know this information about Harry's condition?
I would want to know. It would depend on.
Wow, he looks a lot younger.
Depend on how important Harry was to the company.
Harry's very well. He's a spiritual leader, identified that way in the community.
If he's important, I would want to know.
How would you react to Mr. Mercer not telling you? He says he's not going to tell Ms. Quinn.
He'll probably tell me.
He'll probably tell you. Mr. Mercer, is that right?
Sure.
If he called you up, you'd tell him. She calls you up, you're not going to tell her.
We had a purpose here for this interview, and I want to see that purpose take place, and I want to see the company's forward plans promoted and developed.
You want to use me as a promotional arm and a promotional tool rather than somebody getting out the facts about the company, which is not my interest. I am not your PR
And
department.
Jane, you understood that when we agreed to make the appointment and have the interview, because that was the subject.
Mr. Flum, should they tell her Harry's condition?
Well, at the very least, I would tell her that he was ill, and I do not want to discuss it any further. And you create legal liabilities if you were to put out false information about it, and you would also create insider trading liabilities if you gave selective persons that information. Because in this particular case, the law and fairness seem to coincide.
Mr. Lyman, if Mr. Mercer asked you first whether he should tell her about
Insider in the company.
Yes, wrong, right.
Good gracious.
She found out some information about Harry Oldman. Before going back to her magazine to write the story, called her broker and bought some stock. Is she in any trouble?
I would say she's definitely in trouble. Again, if you have to define what
How much trouble?
She's certainly going to be in a lot of trouble in terms of civil lawsuits from the people who claim to be on the other side of the transaction. But it sounds to me like she's seriously misusing her position as a reporter if she does it.
Ms. Quince?
I would expect to be investigated under those circumstances. I think it's absolutely, I don't know if it's still an open question, but I think it's absolutely
It's
unethical,
wrong.
immoral, and fattening. My job is to go and do the story and to publish it. I consider that inside information. I consider.
So they're talking about inside information in the
my
beginning.
career, among other things. If I printed it, it's my duty to publish that information. If I then want to buy the stock, I buy the stock. It's my
You don't
duty.
have any duty to shareholders.
I have a duty.
have to go out and comply with. So they created these
So, James,
contraptions and
Raider.
companies.
The companies that did it, why?
They went from making socks to making electronic engines to making aerospace to whatever you like. Anything. These conglomerates didn't work. Now there are two ways in which you can handle that. You can either enshrine them, ossify them, make them into a monument, and all go and say, wonderful, they didn't work, but they're there, just like a monument. And then you have inefficient industry forever. Or you can say, let the market free, and let the market cleanse itself. And somebody, instead of a startup, as I was talking about before, has to go and do a re-startup, which is go in there, cleanse through market action a structure which was wrong, liberate the pieces so that they can become valid companies, and of course make a profit at the same time. And that is just as constructive a thing to do as the startup by which I started.
And you're the cleansing agent.
A re-startup, which is re-startup, which is go in there, cleanse.
See, so James Goldsmith, corporate raider. Now, when he's asked by the moderator what it is that he does, he says he's a grocer. And then when they ask Boone Pickens, the other corporate raider, what he does, he says he's a geologist. But these guys are essentially private equity, and he's giving you the justification for private equity. Taking badly run, inefficient companies and cleansing them. Now, cleansing is not really a good word to be using in this decade, but you buy them and you clean them out. And you put them back in good form. And then, I don't know whether I can find it, I don't want to take the time to find it, my favorite statement, quote, in the whole videotape: a well-run business will not be taken over by force. Taken over by force? What is this? This is a sort of finance terrorism?
Now, this is just back in the day, just had an open forum of top execs and different business operators, industry leaders. And they had this on TV, or is she the only one?
There was